Hi everybody, this is Kim.
I'm Janet.
And this is our Real Reaction!
Oh my god.
So in Australia, for those who don't know, this weekend coming up is the Australian elections. And of course, with the circus that goes along with that is always people who kind of have, electoral promises, and they tell you great advertising campaigns. If you haven't seen or heard of the Clive Palmer advertising campaign here in Australia, it is causing quite a stir, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
It's a shipwreck and a catastrophe, but Australia kind of looking at it going, from my point of view, really don't want our version of Donald Trump.
Yes.
So, but you never know what happens in politics. So with this lead up to with our election this weekend on Sunday, I just wanted to actually do a reaction. Saturday. Yeah, I can't vote on Sunday. friendlyJordies does some really cool. I've seen a lot of his stuff he's done with political before. So I'm looking forward to his Australian Militia is Lethal one, which he's just dropped like yesterday. So I'm looking forward to having a watch of that and exposing Janet to some awesome Australian comedy as well.
I am Australian. I do have Australian comedians that I love. Exactly. Just because I don't know this person, it does not mean that I don't know Australian comedy.
So I'll expose you to another Australian comedian.
Correct.
All right, cool. So this is friendlyJordies, Australian military is lethal.
Okay, here we go.
What I'm about to share with you is the most evil thing the Liberals have ever done, and that is saying a lot. We're talking about a party that deliberately ground our public schools down to the level of Kazakhstan's in order to give private schools heated pools. The party that knowingly legalised mass manslaughter in this country by weakening the safety laws on construction sites, has all but guaranteed a recession by turning housing in this country into an online poker game, except instead of stoners playing it, it's rich kids of Vaucluse parents that... Actually, now that I think about it, it's still just stoners. So I'm very well aware that the Liberals have done a lot of things that would make the devil himself think,
Mom, can you check if former Liberal President Richard Aston is under the bed?
What's the matter? Scared of the boogeyman?
no! But all of that pales in comparison as opposed to what they did in the last few months of 2018, which is sabotage the future. That's right. They're so evil they poison time itself. Wrap your head around that, stoners from Vaucluse. Fuck. Still reeling from the shade you threw my way. Then you proceed to weed me out. Let's walk through this step by step. For weeks now, the media has been parroting that Labor's response to the most dire threat humanity has ever faced is irrational, and their very rational reasoning for that is the irrational fantasies of one economist. Sane. One economist who not only works for fossil fuel companies, but I'm assuming works for fossil fuel companies in an alternate universe, because for his modelling to be this far off, it'd either have to be from a dimension where people who look like they're registered sex offenders run questioned vessels of knowledge, or he's just lying. But for legal reasons, it's my personal opinion that he's from Rapey-tron 7. Notice the double standard. When the Liberals spend, not want to spend, actually spend hundreds of billions of dollars. And this isn't maybe if you take some DMT, talk to a clockwork elf and stand on your head, he'll tell you that...
Yeah, it'll cost hundreds of billions of dollars, man, trust me.
This is in fact hundreds of billions of dollars, not spread across the economy, in the budget, in increased military spending. What is the media's response? You can't question that. Some things are more important than money. Only a truly mentally ill person would look at spending money on an actual threat as... But a clockwork elf told me everything was going to be fine. While spending way more money. We're essentially talking about $200 billion in increased spending on bear patrol. That's what our own white papers say. You can read them if you like, but the gist of it is, even if China wanted to invade us, which it doesn't, what are we going to do? Stick the bra boys on them? It's China. We may as well be planning for Independence Day. Even the people we pay to be worried about an invasion aren't worried about an invasion, which in turn worries me because somebody in the government must have read their own papers and still decided to spend a record-breaking amount of money on military hardware, and the media's response was... In political news, Liberals increased military spending from 1/5 of procurement spending to 3/4, aka the most it's ever been in history by a fucking mile, and... that's not really newsworthy, is it? This just in, Australia decides, is Bill Shorten batting out of his league? 81% say yes, 19% say undecided. Scared? Because it's about to get a whole lot scarier. This record amount of military spending, which can best be described if you imagine Scott Morrison as your dad, and if you grew up in the suburbs of Australia, you don't have to imagine anything, it is your dad. Now, don't go in the garage. If you need batteries, tell me and I'll get them. And this Christmas, instead of getting you a Nintendo Switch, he got you a Game Boy. That's how lost he is. Helicopters, submarines, jeeps that might have been impressive to the A-team, but we're talking $200 million jets that could have been beaten by Tom Cruise, let alone drones that cost $20 million. That's right, for just one of these Tom Clancy wet dreams, our hypothetical enemy could have bought 10 of these things that win in every scenario ever. We might as well have put the money in those anti-dragon crossbows. This is why somebody who's clearly suffering from a midlife crisis shouldn't be running a country. But the other reason this party of so-called budget responsibility decided to blow $80 billion on what is essentially collectibles in the dying months of 2018 is that they realised they were dying. They realised they were going to lose this election, so they flipped the board game over. Party of adults. Think about the sheer malice behind those actions. They locked Australia into $80 billion defence contracts, which coincidentally is the exact same amount of money they ripped out of schools and hospitals, so the Australian Labor Party couldn't redirect that money back into schools and hospitals. As a result, mark my words, the Liberals will turn around in 3 years with an attack ad saying, "Oh, look, the deficit's gone up. Typical Labor, spend, spend, spend. Remember us? Back in black. Now it's Sunday, bloody Sunday. The budget's redder than your mum's last tampon." Vote one, the party of responsible budget managers who splurge all our money on sick retrojet. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the current governing party of Australia in all its malicious glory. A party that was elected by the people of this country with very low expectations to begin with. In fact, they only had one: clear the debt. They instead decided to clear the floor of their multinational arms dealer donors so they have room to supply the genocides they're currently fueling across the globe, all paid for by you, without your knowledge, in the span of 3 months. Talk about a credit card scam that's going round. In fact, speaking of credit cards, remember the Liberals' whole song and dance about budget responsibility? How does knowingly starving this nation of the capital that clearly wanted to invest in renewables, broadband, schools and hospitals on an attack ad that you have planned 3 years down the line that I'd normally describe as being cheap in rhetoric, but $200 billion ain't cheap. In fact, it's pretty much the only thing about these bought and sold puppets that isn't cheap, who are so cocksure of the protection provided by their syndicate of media barons that they were bragging about this grand-scale money laundering, knowing that if the Labor Party said anything about it, the national conversation would switch to defence. Therefore, this $80 billion budgetary albatross that in true military-industrial complex style is filled with explosives, set to detonate at the next election, has been draped around their neck that they have to wear in silence as the media ironically beats them for being irrational spendthrifts, as that's preferable to being pegged as weak on defence. That's the level of bias we're talking about. That's the reason the Liberals can keep stooping lower and lower and getting re-elected over and over, because the public isn't watching news. They're watching propaganda designed to keep a party in power that serves companies whose product is genocide. That's why you have to counter the narrative. That's why every time you encounter one of these Murdoch drones who ask, how is Labor going to pay for its climate policy? You counter by asking, how are the Liberals going to pay for their wicked, wicked hobby in military antiques?
Wow, I am all about truth. And I think that he gives a lot of truth. You know what? I think that politicians, no matter who you vote for, on any side, on any party, are not in touch with what people need. Education is the most important thing in the world, and not every single person is getting it. You know, education should be free. I don't know how many times I have talked about education in, overseas. Education is free for everyone.
Yeah,
including
in different countries.
In different countries. I'm not saying all of them, but
education
we
is
need
free.
We are the 41st country.
like that, yeah.
We're Australia, for goodness sake.
Yeah. Yeah, and yet
do you know what I mean? It's okay. Yes, these politicians, I would like them to come to my house and say, "Oh, okay, let's have a look at your salary for one year. Can I live on it? Can I pay my bills, feed my family, transport, all these things?" I don't know why there are solutions to problems, and they need to start remembering that they work for us. They don't work for themselves. And you know what? They're the only people that can comfortably retire and have money in abundance. Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Why don't you all get paid what, I guess, let's go on average, $55,000 that most people make.
In Australia,
Yep. Yeah. The average household for, an average employee, $55,000. You think that you'll be living in that lovely house in Vaucluse in Sydney? No, mate. You'll be living in the burbs with the rest of us, trying to make ends meet. And the other thing is, I'm sick of people who don't, like, you need to just make decisions so clearly. And I'm like, don't waste your vote. Don't go in there and just be like, oh, I'm just going to do a donkey vote. I'm like, there are people dying to vote. I'm really passionate about this because every single person in this planet has that right to vote. If you don't use it properly, don't be the one that complains about it at the end, because that's what you're going to do. That is what you're going to do. I am sick to death of people complaining when they have the responsibility. You have the responsibility to make this change. You might think I'm just one person. What's my vote? That vote could change a lot of things. We need to start, politicians, if you are listening, start thinking about the people in your country and stop with the scandals and the money laundering and the tax evasion and all of the things that you're doing, and start speaking real talk.
Yeah. And stop thinking about your next term. Because
you won't be there. Because right now, Australia is turning over prime ministers like changing your undies every day.
It's ridiculous at the moment, the amount that Australia in particular have changed over their head of the leading politician. It's just like every 2 years, even less than that, we're not even getting to vote on them. The person we vote in on gets kicked out by the party. So the big issues which we are facing take longer than 4 years to work with. So, you can't really turn over a government in under 2 years and expect them to actually do anything. We've elected people for a reason. We expect that what they're actually talking about is going to happen. Even if it is a wall across the middle of the country, we'd expect it to be built. And when it's not built, there's going to have to be someone to answer for that.
No one is listening to politicians anymore. On Saturday, people are going to go and vote, and there'll be, don't get me wrong, there'll be a good number of people who actually care and will take consideration, but things need to change. There needs to be a big, swift change in how this country is run. We need to stop thinking about all the people, all these rich people, all these rich businesses that aren't like the mums and dads and the singles and the single parent families and the elderly and the pensioners. Like, politicians need to start doing their job and looking after the people of Australia, not what is good for their hip pocket. Because you know what, in the end of the day, you'll be out of a job, and yes, you'll probably go and live your luxury life getting paid your millions, but your conscience will never be the same.
Yeah.
And when you look at your children at night and they will one day get on the internet and realize what you have done, I hope that they have some hard questions to ask you. I could go on this topic forever, but I'm just going to say, last thing, go out there and vote accordingly and be educated.
Be educated in your vote. Don't just throw it away. That's why I really like friendlyJordies. He's one of these people that do raise awareness of what impact politicians do have on the economy and the world around us that we're living in. So just raising that awareness with the videos that he does is, I think it's invaluable that he's taking the time to, do his own research and then propose his, expose a lot of things which paid media don't expose.
Yes. And it's also, I really take my hat off to him. It's a young person who's putting their views out there. Like, there are, like, in the last election, I think we had more 18 to 21-year-olds vote ever in our history.
Yeah.
Because 18 to 25-year-olds, 18 to 21-year-olds, they switch off. They don't care. You need to make them care. So I'm begging everyone, please go out and vote, make an educated vote, think about all the things that you want to see, but also think about the things that the parties that will take care of the major things that we really need are education, hospitals, childcare,
energy.
They're the top things that. So when you go out and vote, make sure you vote for someone that's going to do a good job there.
All right.
All the lesser evil.
All right, I think that's as much of our rant as it was for friendlyJordies rant. But love his work.
We do.
Like, share, and subscribe. We do have we do these videos pretty regularly. We always take comments for anyone who actually wants to put forward something for us to watch. As you can see, you can honestly get an honest, real reaction.
Yes, you can. And you know what? We take criticism very well, so we're happy to hear everybody's thoughts and opinions, because that's, at the end, they're your opinions and my opinions. They may be the same, they may be different, so that's okay.
Yep, and if they're different, we can discuss them.
Exactly.
Excellent, guys. Until the next time, we'll say bye-bye.
Bye.